Hello and welcome. Well, I've got a question for you. How are you doing? Throughout this pandemic, how have you been taking care of yourself, or have you not been taking care of yourself? After being kept indoors for so long now, if you were to really be honest with yourself and rate out of a score of 1 to 10, 10 being totally exhausted, whereabouts are you sitting and feeling at the moment? As lovely as the stay-at-home era has been and is, it really is exhausting. And life pre-COVID was already busy and tiring enough. But where our usual lives, we've had to maintain so much of that being our jobs and keeping our houses in order and looking after the kids. COVID-19 has really put an extra layer of stress on top of our already busy lives. And this has left many parents feeling run down and burnt out, which is not good for anyone, let's face it. So the question is, how can we prevent burnout? Today we welcome our very special guest, Francesca Pinzone, who's going to help us talk about this. Now, Francesca is the co-founder and CEO of Umbo, a social enterprise that addresses one of Australia's biggest hidden problems, which is access to speech and occupational therapy in regional Australia. Now, Francesca has a ton of qualifications, including a master's degree in international public health from the University of Sydney. Now, she has over 12 years experience working in not-for-profit organisations overseas in countries like Pakistan and UNICEF in India. She's worked for Canteen here in Australia. And she also currently teaches at the University of New South Wales with their Centre of Social Impact. Oh, and before I forget, she's actually a busy mum of 3 young children, and which one of them has received speech pathology. Thank you so much for joining us today, Francesca. I'm really thrilled that you're joining us. How are you?
I'm really good, and thank you so much for having me today. I'm really thrilled to be here with you to talk about this topic because it's really important.
It is really important. And as we were just saying offline before, it is a heavy topic. So we're going to try as much as possible to put a positive lens onto this,
That's right.
but at the same time communicating, I guess, a very important message to everyone. But they are interesting times at the moment. And I guess where we're not physically running around like we used to and dropping kids off and picking them up, it does really feel like we are much more tired than normal. But if we think about it logically, it's not really possible because we are sort of in the one place. So this has me thinking, our fatigue and tiredness may not be so much of a physical tiredness, rather more than a mental exhaustion caused from stress and anxiety. So on the get-go, I'd love to know what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do think that's a really interesting question because we have spent so long, running around every day. We run to sport after school, we run to work, we get ourselves ready, we get our kids ready. And that is a real kind of physical challenge for us. But I have noticed myself, being a lot more kind of tired at home. I think it's that stress and this compounding feeling of trying to work, trying to school your children, trying to keep them safe. You go to the supermarket by yourself because you're scared to take your children out because they touch everything. Also trying to help them with their health and anxiety, talking about the virus that's around and their fears. So and then, participating on all these Zoom calls and meetings when your kids are running in the background. It's a real challenge. And I think you're right. There's this sense of tiredness and exhaustion that it's not the physical tiredness, it's this compounding mental kind of tiredness that we're feeling, which it feels very different than pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some things around, not doing all the drop-offs and pickups has been great. The occasional more sleep-ins have been great, but it's this mental kind of tiredness that I think is, it's a heaviness, I think, and uncertainty and economic problems. There's so many different things that I think is making us feel, a lot more exhausted. Yeah, definitely.
I guess, this whole COVID era, I guess, despite making us slow down, as you were just saying, has really meant that we are dealing with additional psychological strains that's almost like wearing us out. It sort of feels like at the moment. So what's been your personal experience with this? Have you had, because as we just mentioned before, you are busy with lots of different things, but have you found that you feel it is sort of like wearing you out or anything like that at all, or not maybe?
It is. Well, it is in different ways. So I guess from a work perspective, it's been really interesting trying to, firstly, we had to navigate into this kind of online world. And that happened with my work at Umbo. We had to change some of the ways that we undertook our work, moving from, increasing our client numbers to increasing the number of therapists who need our support. But also my work at the university, we had to translate courses that were in a face-to-face environment into an online environment within a matter of a week, which was also a challenge. It was fun. But yeah, it was certainly a challenge. And, I had a lot of American students who were called back to America. So, that was a massive stress for them and supporting them through that. But yeah, it's this having our children home and in our world all the time. And as much as we love them, but the amount of times I hear mum, every single day, it kind of just slowly chips away at you. So I think it's a real balance of the work and the home. And it does kind of, at the end of the day, when it's, 8:30 at night and I'm kind of just sitting on the couch, I don't want to do anything. I just want to switch everything off, because that's kind of the coping strategy.
We just don't put the news on, that's for sure.
I don't put the news on. No, I've been watching some really good trashy TV. That's always been a really good downtime thing for me. And I love a bit of trashy TV, and it works well. So the other good thing that a lot of my colleagues do before we start any of our meetings, we do a bit of a personal check-in. How are you going? How do you feel? What's this week like? And so some weeks have been fine for me, and some weeks it's just gotten on top of me. And I've been really honest with them and said, actually, this isn't a good week. And it's really nice to have that support, to actually say that to, my colleagues, and say, actually, it's been tough, and they can help you with that, which is great.
Well, that's just the thing, I guess, with all the extra energy that everyone's putting out, I guess many parents haven't actually done a check-in with themselves and realized they haven't been really doing much to put their energy back in, to top up their energy levels. This is so important for parents to do this.
Yeah, it is really important. And I think, we've often talked about with mums particularly, is around self-care, and this really important need to look after yourself and fill your cup first. Or there's always that analogy with the oxygen mask on the aeroplane, put yours on first. But if your cup filler was to get a massage, or your cup filler was to, I don't know, go somewhere to a coffee shop, have breakfast and read your book alone, you've lost that. And so that's really hard. You have to find new ways to practice your own self-care. And if you're not someone who likes to sit in that introspective, meditative environment, that can be really hard. I'm I like to get out. I'm not much more, I don't mind reading my book. I love reading my book, but I like to get out and do those types of things. And you've kind of lost some of that. Besides the walking, you've kind of lost, going to the shops and things that maybe you actually quite enjoy doing. And I think that's been a challenge for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, when we think about even just going to the shops now, doing my food shopping on the weekend.
Well, actually, that's a bit of a break. I quite like the food shopping at the moment. It's a bit of a break.
But it's one of those things that you still have the back of your mind, and you're still seeing people with masks and gloves walking around, and rightfully so. But it is. Even the simplest things now sort of can cause some subconscious anxiety.
Absolutely.
Laughter is a really great way to lift your energy levels, and is always, I guess, the best medicine for anything. So, like you said, with you getting out and moving, and, for me, it's always putting on a funny film, or listening to a comedian, or just listening to my partner, who's just a comedian himself. He's just the way he sees the world is enough, And I guess for any parent, just listening to their children's laughter can be some of the most uplifting and healing sounds that we can experience, which is really good food for thought. So I think lifting stress and anxiety, I think definitely laughter is a really good thing as well. Now, we published your article, Preventing Burnout as a Mum. For someone who hasn't read the article yet, can you please give us an overview of what it's about, and just tell us what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's really important. What inspired me, I guess, is that we carry so much load often, and it's not always just mums, but we do so many things on a daily basis that sometimes we don't actually take stock of. So I actually recently wrote not a to-do list, but a what I've done list. And I did it on like a typical morning, and I just wrote every single thing that I'd done, including have a shower and get dressed and get myself ready, but also, get the kids ready, make their lunch, do all these things. And actually, it was really interesting to see how much, like by 10 o'clock, I'd actually achieved.
Crammed into a day?
Crammed into a day. And like, rather than having this negative idea of, oh, I've got to do this and this, I actually looked at what I'd achieved so far. And so then I also put that down of, you know, I was feeling a little bit stressed out. This was pre-COVID, but feeling a little stressed out, thinking, gosh, you know, there's all these things like medical appointments for kids and birthday party planning, and then buying the birthday presents and all these things. So I actually wrote them down just to write and see what I did on a weekly basis, or whatever it might be, what things were my responsibility. And it was absolutely enlightening to see why I felt the way I did.
Yeah.
Because the
this
list
is
was
why
3 pages long. Yeah, the list was 3 pages long. And so it was no surprise. So then I kind of wanted to really think about, you know, what is it that I do then to try and stop myself burning out from that? And so I wrote that article because I think that there's some interesting tips and pieces that I've gathered over time from different people. I think we can always learn from, you know, various people. Different kind of coping strategies, I think, or ways to prevent the burnout before it actually happens, because it's much harder to fix something once it's already happened than preventing
100%.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really important, is the more we can do now before we hit that point of, you know, explosion, or whatever that may be, it's better to try and do it now. So one of the things, a couple of the key topics I focused on was, you know, as parents, life is chaos. There is chaos, but if you fight against that chaos all the time, it's like being in the water and trying to swim against a rip. You know, everyone tells you let the rip take you out, and then you kind of work out how to get out of that rip. And I kind of try and think like that, you know, if the more I try and fight the chaos, the more it's going to kind of wear me down. So let's just embrace some of the chaos. Motherhood is chaotic. We know that, right? From day dot. So let's embrace that. And then that ties in to the next thing I covered, which is control. You know, there's a lot of, we're always trying to control many things, but so many things are out of our control. Yeah. And if we actually accept the things out of our control that we don't, or that we cannot control, then it reduces your anxiety. So the whole thing around COVID and homeschooling, well, it's out of our control. We don't know when it's going to stop. I mean, obviously we've had some changes lately, but we don't know when the virus is going. So there's no point stressing too much over it, because it's just the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
So I think having control, you know, trying to always control things can actually increase your anxiety and increase your mental kind of stress. I also wanted to kind of bring up about time out and make it good, like quality time out. So like I said, if your thing is reading a book, then take that time to read a book. Don't feel guilty. I mean, the guilt that we have as mothers is just beyond, you know. Take the time out to read your book, or go for a massage when you're allowed to, or whatever it might be. It's really important to rejuvenate yourself, I think. Yeah. And just have a bit of silence, a little bit of quiet. It's really important, just a bit of quiet. And I guess the other couple of points I was really, you know, interested to kind of share is that, you know, when you juggle things, like not all balls are up in the air. I think that's really important, just to remind yourself that, you know, so if work might be going really well, but home might be, you know, a bit off kilter, or it can be the opposite, or whatever it is, but it's never going to be perfect. So yes. I think that's really important to know. And my final kind of thought was around, you know, we need to embrace the good people in our lives. So who are the good people? You just talked about your husband, who's a comedian.
Not husband, partner.
Oh, partner, sorry. Sorry, your partner who's a comedian, who's obviously like amazing, you know, for you, and that's what you need. So, you know, I try and lean on my husband, because he's, you know, he's very calm, and he's very funny too. And he loves kicking the football with my kids, which I can't. You know, I don't like it, so that's good. That's his job. So I lean on him for those things. My friends, if they say, I'll come over with a coffee, you know, great. Like, lean on your community and lean on your village. And so these are the kind of things that I do to try and stop that feeling of stress and anxiety that then leads to that burnout feeling.
So just surrounding yourself with good people, yeah?
I think it's really important. I really do. And look, it's not perfect for everyone. Like you may not have those good people, but if you can find them, like, you hang on to them, you know, you really do, and you pull them right in.
Well, that's just the thing, like when you take a bit of an inventory of your life and you sort of work out who are the energy vampires and the people that do actually take the energy from you.
Yeah,
And then I think a healthy relationship with friends, family, or anyone in your life, there's give and take, isn't there? That as long as
yeah,
there is that equal balance as much as possible, there's going to be times when you're going through a harder time and you're going to need to lean
yeah,
on your friends more and vice versa. But, in the
absolutely.
grand scheme of things, it is a 50-50. So it's at a time at the moment when we're already exhausted, we're already run down, we're already got so much stuff going on, depending on where life is at, the last
Yeah,
thing you need is an energy vampire in your life and them taking them,
totally.
so it might just be time just to maybe just put those friendships on pause, maybe.
Have a look at that list of friends and make
Yeah,
sure you've got the good
put that on
ones.
the list.
Yes, add that on your to-do list.
Yes. And well, this is the thing, even subconsciously, when you think about those types of people in your life that do drain you, even if it's not that you're speaking to them and seeing them so much, that in your subconscious mind that they can drain your thoughts and your energy. So, when you're looking at your to-do list, like you were just saying before, if you've got someone in your life, they may have already taken 20% of your energy of the day because you're worried about what they said or all of that yucky
Yeah,
stuff that can happen in
yeah,
our lives.
it's very true.
They're out
It's
there.
very
You got to be
true.
careful. Hey,
They are. Yes. You
life's
just
too
got
short.
to identify them. That's right. Life's too
Just
short.
know who they are.
That's right.
Okay, so now for you as a co-founder, a chief operating officer of a social enterprise, a university lecturer, and a mother of three, you are a superwoman. But I'd
Oh,
love to know, how
not
are you
quite.
currently
Thanks.
prioritizing your time and managing, I guess, all the various responsibilities in your life during this pandemic and crazy time at the moment?
Yeah, well, it has been chaos, I have to be really honest. But I guess for me, the easiest way to do that, I kind of compartmentalize things sometimes. So on the days that the kids are home, because obviously they've gone back to school a couple of days now in New South Wales, we're allowed to go back to school a few days. So the days that they're home, I'm doing my very best to try and focus on their schoolwork if I can. It's not going that well. I'm trying not to kind of stress about it. I also have a 4-year-old who doesn't want to do anything. She just wants to lie on the couch or jump on the trampoline. So that's kind of been really tricky to juggle when they're home. On the days that they've gone to school now, I'm really trying to focus on work and get as much done so that I'm not distracted when they're at home, because it is really hard to balance that distraction of work, or it's not even distraction, what your kind of, what your priority is at work, but also your children. And I do want to look back at this time because it's really unique.
It is.
And
So once in
I
a
want to look,
generation.
it is. And I want to look back and think, oh, I hope they didn't think I just shouted at them all the time to
No.
do their homework. Or, I want them to think, oh, it was really lovely to spend time with mum and dad, or my siblings or whoever it is. And so I really am trying very hard when I have my kids at home to actually spend that time with them. That said, the homework and the schoolwork that's coming home, oh my gosh, it's been tough. It's been really
The
tough.
struggle is real.
Um, the struggle is real. I can't even understand what they actually want them to do half the time, let alone actually do the work. And plus, I've got 2 boys and a girl. So my boys, their attention span's about 20 minutes, if that. If that. And then they're rolling on the couch, they're wrestling, they're rumbling. So it is really interesting spending such a lot of time together.
Yeah. And you, like a lot
Mm.
of mums at the moment, already had a lot on your plate before the pandemic. And now there's, as you
Yeah.
just mentioned, you're homeschooling, working from home. And I guess there's so much more going on. So how are you personally managing your mental health at this time?
Yeah, so for me, so the other day, last Thursday, I think I said to my husband, who's also working from home, but he's kind of working a lot more in the office, depending on the time. At about 3:30, I said, "They are all yours. I'm just disappearing for half an hour." And so I just went up to my bedroom and I just shut the door and I said, I'm not going to talk to anybody for half an hour. I've been trying to get out and exercise, do a walk in the morning, because it does totally change your mindset.
Yes.
As to things. And I'm very lucky. I live near the water, so I can go for a walk, along the water. And I've been meeting a friend, every Saturday, and we do a really long walk and have a coffee afterwards. And that's been really good. It's been really helpful for me. So I think just, really kind of this idea of, the way I'm trying to, approach my mental health is I'm not going to do it all. I can't do it all. It's absolutely impossible to do it all. And, managing my kids' behaviors as well as, and their stress and anxiety plus mine, plus their schoolwork, plus work, it's just impossible. So I think just really being really honest and pragmatic. What can I do? What can we achieve? And like I said, leaning on my husband, leaning on, my parents, trying to do Zoom calls with them so they can do a bit of maths homework so I can have a bit of, time. I think all those types of things are really important for my mental health.
Yeah. And I guess leveraging off the community around you as well. Is this something that you've done a lot of?
Yeah, so I'm surrounded, like in my kind of little village of myself, I've got my colleagues at work, and so I've tried to, we work really closely together. So it's leveraging off them, saying to them, I may or may not get something done, or actually just seeing their faces is really nice when we have our Zoom calls, and they've got a different energy than what I'm at home. So that's actually really good for me, is to see other people and, their perspectives. And yeah, like you said, kind of my community, my family, those, we've been sharing a lot of chats on WhatsApp. We've been sharing a lot of information. Same for my friends. We've been doing a trivia night. So things like that, really leaning on your community for that kind of connection, that social connection, and to kind of decrease that feeling of kind of living in a bubble within your own house. I think that's really important as well. And to share these like parenting challenges. I sent a photo to some of my friends the other day of my, they're all lying on the floor. The kids are all lying on the floor. I don't even know what they were doing. And my daughter's doing some form of gymnastics. And I said, today's lesson was around, what was it? Defiance, irritability, and something else. We're talking about emotions today, because I just kind of gave up and thought, well, I'm not going to stress about it, So sharing that information with your friends, I think, is really important as well.
And how do you know when you're close to burnout, and for others thinking that they're going through burnout, or can see that it's not far away? So what's your advice for them, I guess?
Yeah, I guess for me, in terms of feeling, if I'm getting close to that, I think sometimes it's that physical feeling that you get as well, that kind of, you feel it in your the tenseness in your shoulders. I also get that feeling of, you get a bit snappy, and you get, a little bit irritable over different things. And I think I said this before, but the other day, we're spending so much time together, and my 3 children, they like to, excuse the words, but fart a lot or fluff a lot. And I said to them, okay, rules in place now, like you excuse yourself and go out of the room to do it. I think it's just overload of so much. And so that for me was like one of those moments I was like, right, rules are in place, and we're not doing this anymore.
No more fighting in this house. You need to fight, you go outside.
Exactly. And it kind of goes away from things that I'd read. Like Maggie Dent has, she does a lot about raising boys, and she's like, boys love fart jokes, and they love farting, and they love burping and stuff. And she's like, you've got to embrace that if you've got boys, right? So I've tried to let myself do that and just be not too precious about it. But the other day I'd had enough, and I was just like, right, no more, everybody stop. So, and that for me was like, okay, I think I've had enough. I think I need to go for a walk. And, I'm getting to that point of, I can feel myself getting stressed out. And it came out in a conversation, in the way of farting as opposed to something else, if that makes sense.
You needed a fart, so you went outside.
I gave myself that excuse to walk out the front door, one or the other.
Even if you just need it.
And so I just think, it's really important too. And I think for other people, like find those signs, recognize those signs, and try and get onto them early. So if you feel that tightness in your chest or whatever it is, or you look around your living room and it's completely chaos and there's toys and books, like find the signs and the triggers for you and get onto them early, because I think that's really important. We have to kind of, again, prevention is better than cure. You have to get there, try and tackle that burnout feeling before it comes and it takes over, because once you're there, it's so hard to get out of it, out of that sense.
And burnout is so real, isn't it? Like, parents just keep pushing themselves until one day they wake up and they're like, I can't get myself out of bed.
That's right.
And it's almost like running a car when there's no petrol, and at one point it just stops working. What do you think?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And, you can't be a great you won't be a great parent if you can't look after yourself as well, I think. And that's what's really important as well is, we all want to do the best that we can for our kids. We love them. They're driving us crazy, but we love them. And so in order to do that, you really do have to take care of yourself and take care of your relationships, whoever it is that you co-parent with, or those relationships with your kids. You want to have really nice relationships with them. And so it's really important to take that time out so that you can actually build those relationships.
But why do you think it's, what us all sort of leave it till it's like too late and realize that we're going to do something like when we are burnt out? Like, why do we leave it so late, do you think?
Oh, we're just so good at putting ourselves last. I think sometimes it's the whole burnt toast, and I saw my mum do it. She was amazing. I've got twin older sisters and a younger brother. And so there's 4 of us, and she looked after us. And it's this, but she always took the last bit of toast, and it was always the burnt piece, because we put everybody else's needs first. And so I think we don't recognize those signs of burnout in ourselves until sometimes it is too late. And then you think, I should be able to do this. Why can't I manage my kids and my work? And so over there manages their work fine, and they can do this and this 100%. With their kids. But we don't, we have to look at what works for us as individuals. You might be great at delegating and outsourcing stuff, and that's what works for you and your family. So I think we just have to, we can't compare ourselves to other parents. We can't compare ourselves to social media. We know none of that's, the reality. And so I think that we need to make sure that we do prioritize ourselves and don't let ourselves get to that point before it happens.
Yeah. And look, there is a really serious side to burnout that we should speak about briefly that can affect our health. It's not just, I guess, being busy is like wearing a badge of honor and sort of that, we all love to be busy, and everyone, there's different levels of busyness and all that sort of stuff, but it's not something that we should really be, I guess, able to accept in a long term for like a prolonged period of time, because that stress and that burnout can lead to very serious health issues and even neurological disorders, and that being illnesses of the nervous system. I know this personally because I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, when I was young, and at that point I didn't realize that I guess there are hundreds of millions of people worldwide that are affected by neurological disorders that are possibly and mostly can be preventable just from managing stress better. They are things like strokes, serious migraines, and other headache disorders like MS, brain tumors, and all that yucky stuff. So my point really is not to scare anyone. It's just the fact that, and as you said at the very start of this chat, a lot of these things can be preventable. We just need to know at what point. How does our body feel when we are in that place of high stress? And with the nervous system, that's something everyone's body feels different. Like, how does yours feel like when you're really stressed? What do you feel?
I get this kind of funny sense in my shoulders, this kind of heaviness or this tightness, and I feel like I just need to have a big stretch and a shake out. And often for me, I've got to move, like I've got to go for a walk, or I've got to do something, even if it's a quick walk around the block. But I can feel this kind of heaviness that kind of comes over me, and I know that I'm gonna yell about the kitchen being dirty or something, like, oh, I can feel it happening, or I'm probably not going to be great in my work interactions, because obviously you can be a bit short on your emails and things because you've got a lot of things to do. So I do get those physical manifestations sometimes. I think the other thing is stress is linked to a lot of inflammatory conditions, so it's not just around it's around how your stomach feels and how your body feels 100%. Overall. So there's so many different kind of physical indicators of stress, not just the the mental kind of indicators of stress for you. So I think it's so important to kind of know your triggers and know your points where you actually start to feel it. So I do get migraines, and often those migraines are coming when I've kind of worked too late, or I'm overtired, those types of things, and I know they're coming, and I know what I have to do to try and stop it. But sometimes you're on that treadmill and you're still running, and you just kind of can't jump off, and so you don't jump off, but then the inevitable happens and you end up with the migraine or whatever it might be. So it's really important to kind of see those signs in yourself and actually try and minimize whatever those stresses are at that time.
Yeah, and that's the
easy
thing.
Said than done.
It's so much easier said than done, and that's just the thing. But this is about prolonged stress. This is just not about the last sort of 3 months,
No.
however long it's been with COVID-19. This is something that over a prolonged period of time, but we can sweep these things under the carpet quite easily. So it's about
Yeah.
knowing,
Yeah.
as you just said, what the warning signs are, at what point your body's really giving you like that flashing red light, slow
Yeah.
down,
Yeah, absolutely.
and which is time to apply those coping mechanisms. And I think it's having that honest conversation with yourself, saying, you know what, maybe I'm not okay at the moment and I do
Yeah.
need to put myself first. So this is just a
Yeah.
personal note to anyone listening, just to be aware of what your body is telling you, to listen to your body, and really just to be kind to ourselves, because as you said, we are trying to, in all these instances, be all things to all people. It's
Yeah.
almost a weakness to say, I can't do this, or can I do this
Yeah.
later? I mean, God forbid,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, we do it later. Like the world's not going to come to an end.
The
But
world is not going to end. It
yeah.
really isn't. Yeah, it
And it's
really
almost like
isn't.
having a daily check-in of saying, okay, as I said at the very start of this chat, of a score of 1 to 10, and 10 being total exhaustion, how am I feeling today? But being honest with yourself. So, you know, but the other thing as well, I think, you know, all of the negative things that have been happening with COVID-19 as well, I think instead of being optimistic about the future and having things to look forward to can also help us put us into a positive state of mind, and you know, of course, reduce anxiety, illness, and all of that fatigue and that yucky stuff. So, you know, it's been said that, I guess, planning ahead and setting goals for things that we can achieve and are realistic once we sort of get to the other side, I guess, of COVID-19 and out of lockdown, can sort of help get us out of a negative state. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the positive thinking and all the optimistic stuff as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really important. You know, they say, there's that saying that says when you come home from a holiday, you've got to plan the next one. So you've got something to look forward to. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like that. We have to think what's next, what's coming, and what do we really want to enjoy. And I think, for me, for example, it's going to be the little things, like going out and having a breakfast out with your friends or your family, or the little things that we probably maybe took for granted that we don't, you know, that we haven't had for a while, and now actually we're really happy to do those things. My kids keep asking to go to the swimming pool, which is the wrong time of year, but that's what they are kind of missing the most. So finding the good and the joy in those little things, I think, is really important. I know some of my colleagues are really keen to get back into the office. I'm not quite there yet, but I know that they are. So, you know, just looking forward to that kind of social connection with your work colleagues, I think, is another thing that, you know, is really important. For me, with the business that we have with Umbo, we've seen such incredible changes that have happened, and our business has really grown. So I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with that, because we've, you know, we're seeing more children, we're helping more families, we're seeing more people in communities. And for me, like, the purpose of what I do drives everything. And so for me, that's something I really want to look forward to. I want to talk to families and find out, you know, how they find our services, how we've helped ease, you know, stress or anxiety in their lives, how we've helped their kids communicate. So for me, that's another, you know, real positive that I think, you know, is kind of driving what I do. So when I am working late at night, or when I am tired or stressed or looking at the list of things, I go back to that, and that always helps me. It kind of regrounds me in that positive outcome that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And also for me, we had a big family holiday that was booked, that obviously we can't take. And it was the first massive holiday we've had in about 10 years. So I'm just thinking about when that's going to be. And maybe a year, maybe 2 years, but it's just something to look forward to, something kind of that, you know, we can enjoy. So there's lots of different positives I think we need to take from this.
Yes. Well, you've given us lots to think about in this chat today. If you were to, I guess, summarize your key messages for anyone listening and watching, what would they be?
So I think for me, the key messages are, you know, find your tribe, your community, and lean on them. You know, our friends, our family, who is it that we need to, our work colleagues, and lean on them. Get that, you know, let's help each other. Let's help each other out. Let's really, you know, support each other in this time. The other thing is, you know, find that burnout, like find those signs early. Try and get onto them as early as possible. And don't be afraid to say, I need time out. I'm done. You know, I just need to walk away, or whatever it might be, for a little while, because, you know, we need to do that. We need to give ourselves that self-care and that time to actually, and be honest with yourself. You can't do everything. We cannot be perfect teachers, perfect parents, perfect extracurricular activity providers, whatever it is that your kids or your family has been doing. We cannot be all those people. So choose what you're going to do and kind of stick to that, but don't beat yourself up over that. So they're probably my key takeaways is, find your village, find your family, lean on them, and don't stress about the things that are out of your control.
Just be kind to yourself, hey?
Be kind to yourself. It's so important.
Yeah. Well, look, if anyone's got any other questions and or wants to find out more about Umbo, whereabouts can they find you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, umbo.com.au, and you can find out more information about Umbo there, or you can check out my LinkedIn profile. And I'm always open to questions or having a chat.
Francesca, I've loved this chat. Let's do it again soon. Take care.
So bye. Thank you so much.
All
Bye.
right, bye.